Hey, I'm Drew.
And I'm John, a.k.a. Tyler Durden.
The first rule of High on Horror is you don't talk about High on Horror.
No, we got to talk about it so people can listen to it.
Yeah, you got me there.
This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
You know, maybe we should get like a High on Horror soap, though. That'd be pretty tight.
Yeah, like I keep getting those ads for those like Sasquatch soaps all the time.
Exactly. And just get the HOH logo on there.
Just slap that on there.
Yeah, throw it out to some listeners. That'd be awesome. Anyway, today we're discussing the film May from 2002. This movie almost made it in our Love Gone Wrong episode, but we decided that it needed to have an episode on its own. And we were lucky enough to get the director, the super talented Lucky McKee, to join us and let us pick his brain. He's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview today. May really doesn't have any haters that I've seen, and the movie's been out for about 20 years. I've been a fan of it since it came out, and you know the truth is there's two types of people. You either love May or you haven't seen it. So if you're listening, odds are you're a fan, and if not, hopefully we can convince you to watch it after listening to this episode. And to start us off, we're going to walk through this week in horror history and get a little stoned as per usual. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one. And now it's time for Strain Wreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode. The perfect way to start off every episode. Actually, right now, I got the bong loaded with some of that Sub-Zero Gushers. John, what do you got for us?
Yes. I had to get that Pringles pop. I got some of that Lemon G Sherb.
Oh, nice.
I don't have much of any information on this, but it's like 20% THC. I don't know why I went extra on that smell with it, but it definitely fits the name. It's got some lemon smell to it.
All right, let me check it out. Oh yeah, it's very fruity. It smells like pine sol. Very lemony. Has that pine sol scent to it for sure.
What did you say was in here again?
Oh, that's Sub-Zero Gushers. We've had that 1,000 times. It's always good shit to have. It's good shit to have on deck. Good shit to have on deck.
If you're able to finish that from one hit on that would be impressive.
Oh, dude, lung power. I no way. Okay, so let's talk about current events. So Fede Alvarez, the director of the Evil Dead reboot and Don't Breathe, has announced. It's been announced.
And he wrote
Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Correct. The Netflix
2022, to be specific.
Yeah, he's doing the next Alien movie. 20th Century Fox announced that in 2023 he is doing Alien. As of right now, the title is Alien, so I'm guessing it's going to be another requel type of deal. Did you hear about that? How do you feel about that?
I did hear about it. I like Fede Alvarez, so I'm interested, but then I think back that, yeah, I like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but there was some problems, and I'm like, but he did, like, partially write it, so.
The parts that were best were probably the parts that followed what he wrote, honestly.
We're just being biased as fuck. Oh, the good stuff was all Fede, the bad shit was everybody else.
That's kind of ignorant, but we did just do that.
But, I mean, Fede Alvarez does have a track record.
He's good,
so.
Yeah. So, look, I mean, the way that I see it is, like, it can't get any worse, right? Or it can't be any worse than where the Alien series has gone. I mean, I wasn't a fan of Prometheus. Alien Covenant sucked. Resurrection sucked. I'm not a fan of 3. Only the first 2 are any good, you know? But I'm always going to be down to try a new Alien movie. Same thing as Prey, the new Predator movie. Like, anytime there's a new Alien movie or Predator movie, the fanboy in me, the young fan that used to watch them growing up, is still going to say, fuck yeah, I'm going to watch it, you know? And, I mean, both series have already sunk to complete lows. So, I mean, like, a new movie really can't hurt the series any. Hopefully it's an improvement.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I love Alien. I like Alien more than Predator.
Oh, definitely. I used to like Predator more as a kid, but when I got older, I mean,
Predator.
He's more of like the hero. You know what I mean? Alien's definitely always been like the villain. Alien doesn't team up with humans. You know what I mean? So
that's fair. And I mean, Predator just has cooler weapons.
Agreed.
But there's just something about, I mean, all Alien needs.
Acid blood, dude. Acid. Why did I say acid? Acid blood. Acid blood.
Got that acid blood.
That's just devastating to have. Are you a fan of the Alien versus Predator films? I really like both of them.
I've only seen one of them.
The first one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like the first one.
It's good, right? I mean, everybody shit on it for what it was. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Everybody shits on versus movies, but like, what do you expect them to be?
I don't know, but the second one, Alien versus Predator Requiem, I thought that was really good too. That had the Alien Predator hybrid in it, but everybody complained that it was too fucking dark. Everybody's like, "Oh, the movie was so dark, I couldn't see anything." And I'm like, "Well, I saw everything just fine." I just, I don't know, man. I like those movies. I think they're a lot of fun. I would take the AVP movies over Prometheus, Alien Covenant, Alien 3, and Alien Resurrection.
Yeah, Alien Resurrection is god awful.
And over the last two Predator films, the Alien Resurrection and the last Predator film, that was just dog shit. Like, oh my god. Anyway, what do you got going on? You got anything you want to bring up?
Oh man, you're gonna love this. It's about your favorite series, The Walking Dead.
Oh jeez, okay.
So I don't know if you saw.
It's not my favorite series, by the way.
Daryl and Carol are getting their own series. Like
Daryl and Carol.
They're ending the world of the I forget what the fuck it's called at this point. I know somebody out there who's like, "No, asshole, this is what it's called." But whatever, they're ending of the main series. They're ending it, but then they still have Fear the Walking Dead. Daryl and Carol are getting the spinoff. I think that one's called Tales of the Walking Dead, or no, I think that one's separate. But all of a sudden now they announced that Laura Cohen and Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Maggie and Negan, are getting their own series as well after this ends.
What the fuck?
They're going to travel to New York City. It's called Isle of the Dead. It says Isle of the Dead sees Maggie and Negan travel into a post-apocalyptic Manhattan long ago cut off from the mainland. The crumbling city is filled with the dead and denizens who have made New York City their own world full of anarchy, danger, beauty, and terror. So you're just like, well, people are tired of the South, so let's just move it here. They just find new locations, and they literally for the ad use the ad from the first one.
I just
the don't dead open inside.
No, so basically this whole announcement of like The Walking Dead is ending is really just like The Walking Dead.
Everybody's getting a buddy show.
It's just AMC going, yeah, we are ending The Walking Dead, but we're just going to break it off into like 4 pieces here and have like all these different side shows instead of just one main show. But that's the thing. If you couldn't keep everybody on one show together and keep it interesting, how the fuck are you going to keep all these extra shows? It's all about the zombie apocalypse. Like what? How the fuck is there still material to go on?
Man, Walking Dead went from fuck yeah, zombies are back to I'm fucking done with fucking zombies.
Yes. I mean, I'm sorry, John, you said it before, but you said it best, and The Walking Dead really needs to take a page from your book. Not that you were experts or anything, but like you said, like The Walking Dead and the writers need to understand that character development can be more than just walking down train tracks for 20 minutes talking.
Yeah.
Boring as fuck. Just so tired of the boring episodes.
I compared it to when Game of Thrones before that went off the rails in the final season and a half. I said they almost kind of did the same thing, where you have people in Game of Thrones going to, different places kind of in the same way, but it was entertaining as shit. And the writing was well done. Like, the first 3 seasons of Walking Dead are really good.
I really liked the first one.
That was it?
Up, yeah.
You didn't
That's
like
the only one I really liked. I stuck
with
around.
My man Herschel?
I stuck around. I mean, you remember better. I think maybe it was season 5 or 6 or 7. I don't know. I don't even remember. I kept sticking around, and I was bored, and I was waiting for the show to become what everybody kept saying it was. Like, Comic-Con selling out, and the line for The Walking Dead is wrapped around the building, and I'm like, okay, there's obviously something to this show that I'm not getting. And several seasons in, Ash vs. Evil Dead comes out and kicks ass and is just an amazing show. Even on Rotten Tomatoes, it's like a 95 or a 99 or some shit. Like, it's highly rated. And
I'd rather watch Ash vs. Evil Dead.
Yeah, but it's like,
anything
oh my God.
after season 3 of Walking Dead.
But it's like a great horror show finally came out that really got people talking again, and it got canceled. And then The Walking Dead, meanwhile, is still going on. And I'm like, you know what? I can't keep wasting my time on something. Like, I can't support this when the things I do like are getting canceled.
The thing with The Walking Dead is probably after, I forget what season I dropped off, but it was somewhere in Alexandria. But it was
same. Oh yeah, it was in Alexandria for me too.
There would be where I would watch several episodes, and I'd be like, "This is terrible," and then it would have 1 or 2 episodes, and I'd be like, damn, that was a good episode. And it would hook me back in, and then I would just keep going in a pattern. I remember the one time I was hanging out with Tim and Jocelyn. They're like, you want to watch Walking Dead? And I was like, I'm like 8 episodes behind. Like, I was like, and then like we got caught up on it over like a couple weeks, and I was like, I don't know why I wasted my time. Like,
well, going
but
back,
everybody I know has dropped off. My friend Tim,
Same.
he has, I don't think he has finished the collection of comic books. He made it the longest, but even eventually he dropped out, and he was like, I just read what happens just to keep up with it.
Well, it's to bring back Game of Thrones, because you had just brought that up. Another thing that The Walking Dead has in common with Game of Thrones is that episode before the finale is fucking amazing, and then the finale is whack as shit.
Yeah, that's true.
They have that in common. Like the Walking Dead has some build up, and then the episode before the finale, all this shit goes down. It's like this awesome ending, and then you're like, wait, but there's another episode coming.
Yeah,
and then usually
like
nothing happens. It's everybody just sitting on the
episode.
porch sipping lemonade and talking shit
Sipping lemonade and talking shit.
that they stirred with their hands.
Ugh. Got that zombie juice on them. But I feel like, yeah, that would happen. I feel like Game of Thrones kind of same way as where, like, it was that second to last episode, and then the next episode was to build into the next season. But, yeah, at least Game of Thrones, it was all up until, like, the final season and a half that it was good. Walking Dead just went on way too long. I mean...
I agree.
It's like, I don't know what's up with AMC, but, like, you had Rick leave. You had all these people. I mean, the funny thing is Maggie left and came back.
Rick's motherfucking movie still hasn't even come out yet,
right?
and now he's back on the show. What the fuck happened to those plans?
Yeah, they're still working on it, but I like
janky timeline.
But I think it was it? Yeah, I still think the most fucked up thing they did on that show was the kid that played Coral.
Oh yeah.
They were negotiated for a contract and stuff, and he was ready to go to college. And his parents were like, oh, like, is he still going to be on the show? Like, if so, we'll buy a house down in Georgia. That way it makes it easier.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, oh, yeah. And then they killed him off midway through that season. I was like, that's fucked up.
Brutal. I didn't know all those details. I thought that he requested...
There seems to be a lot of problems with that production. There's always, like, I feel like for the first 4 or 5 years, there was a lot of people... Like, Scott Derrickson was in there, Gimple was in there, Frank Darabont. Like, I think Frank Darabont left after season 2.
Yeah, well, yeah.
He said he got pissed off with him.
I know that a main thing that AMC has that I've seen, it was during the Breaking Bad era as well, was that people say that AMC, like, overworks their people. Like, they will work the shit out of you and make your schedule absolutely ridiculous, and they don't pay you enough. So I think that was a big problem with Frank Darabont as well, was the ridiculous schedule and the slave labor, I guess you'd say, for lack of a better term. Anyway, let's move on from talking about that shitty show. Let's get into horror history.
This week in horror history.
All right. So for horror history this week, we'll start off with 2007. And this was a movie you got me to watch because I thought just the premise of it, I wasn't a big fan, but it turned out to be a pretty great movie, and that's Dead Silence from 2007. Yeah. It's 15 years old.
15.
It's almost legal.
That was a good one. Well, before the first 2 Conjuring films, this was the scariest James Wan film. I'm not saying it was the best film because I liked the original Saw a lot, but this was the scariest James Wan film at that time. Another prime example of how Wan just completely drops you on your ass with a twist. He really has a way of making you go, God damn, everything that I just watched was a lie. Same thing happened with Saw. Like, the twist is right in your face and it just knocks you on your ass, you know? And in this case, it's this old ass man being used as a puppet the whole time, manipulating the whole fucking movie. And in Saw, it was Jigsaw being on the floor, like I said, and in Malignant, it was the killer being the antagonist. It was in Malignant, it was the killer, and the killer is the antagonist and the protagonist. You know, it's the same person. He's a genius like that. And Dead Silence is a great, creepy, old school gothic tale. Mary Shaw is scary as hell looking. Judith Roberts is so fucking creepy. This is the perfect creepy old lady and creepy doll movie wrapped into one.
Yeah, when I originally I've seen it on Netflix a million times, but never stopped to watch it. And I remember you brought it up, and I was like, "Oh, that stupid looking puppet movie," and you're like, "No, that's a good movie."
You know, the funny thing is, I'll tell this story here real quick about this before we move on to the next movie. But I remember I was working a job, and I was doing a carpet job, and I remember I brought in like $1,100 in one day in pay and in tips. And I had all this money, and I remember being so happy. It was like the most money I'd ever had in my life at the time, and I had just fistfuls of cash. And this was in 2007, and I was just so fucking happy. So like everybody was like, "What are you gonna do with your money? Are you gonna buy a car? Are you gonna do this? You're gonna do that?" I went to Blockbuster and bought Dead Silence on DVD. That was the first thing that I did with that money.
I was gonna say, hopefully you didn't spend all your money.
It's expensive ass Blu-ray. Got that boutique edition.
Yeah, the Blockbuster edition.
The rental sticker on it.
I probably got some DVDs fucking chilling somewhere with those on them.
I think everybody does.
And from 1979, 43 years old, Tourist Trap.
Love that movie.
Joe Bob is the one that got me to watch that.
I was saying, you've seen it recently, right?
That was when he did the marathon that we all thought was. I think it was the marathon, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
His like first marathon before he got the.
Yeah.
Before they gave him a show.
Yeah, and this is Tourist Trap is one of the absolute best movies from Full Moon. I recently got the Blu-ray restoration, and it's awesome. You've seen it, right? It's the VHS style box, and like the plastic up there on the shelf.
Yep, I see it up
and,
there.
yeah, it's got the little Chuck Connors action figure. Yeah, this it's creepy as hell. And the thing is, I really like the 2005 House of Wax remake, with Paris Hilton. But that is
Nicole likes that. I give her shit for it.
Did you ever actually watch it though?
I've watched, I don't think I've ever gave it a full watch through.
It's actually not bad if you can get through the fact that Paris Hilton was in it, but the thing is that the House of Wax remake from 2005, it's actually more of a remake of Tourist Trap than the original House of Wax. If you go back and watch the Vincent Price House of Wax, it has nothing to do with the remake besides the fact that it was a dude who got burned and in a wax museum. Everything else about the movie, being brothers, and one wears a mask, and the whole town is made of wax, and it's all fake people all over the town and not just in a museum. That's all from Tourist Trap. So it's the House of Wax remake actually just ripped Tourist Trap the fuck off.
And yeah, I don't know what was the obsession with the 90s and 2000s of let's remake Vincent Price movies.
I don't know. And
let's take one of the best horror actors of the golden age of cinema, and you know what? We're just gonna remake all of his movies.
And you know what's funny though? I can't think of one off the top of my head that's been better than the ones he did. I Am Legend, I don't like it more than Last Man on Earth. No.
You ain't a Will Smith fan?
I like Will Smith. I'm just not a fan of all of his shit. He's hit or miss.
I would say lately he's hit or miss. I feel like for a while he had a good solid run.
He did.
I fucking love The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
You know what movie I actually really like that people for some reason don't like? Hancock. It's not it's Hancock. The superhero movie.
Yeah, I saw that. I had no interest in some girl I was fucking around with at the time wanted to see it. So I was like, yeah, I'll see it. But I will say, Hancock, I would shave more if I was able to shave the way he did and just take your hand and just
use his fingernails? Yeah, right? Seriously.
And one of the few, well, it's not a comedy, but I was going to say Jason Bateman. I feel like, I like Jason Bateman, but I feel like he plays the same character in everything.
He does. He's just a normal dude.
He's the opposite of last week when we talked about Brian Cox, who can do everything. Jason Bateman just always plays some smug, know-it-all asshole.
He plays the straight character, and I don't mean sexuality or whatever. I mean straight as he plays the straight and narrow, cut and dry, normal person in these awkward situations around these ridiculous people, and his humor is his sarcasm and the way he reacts to their humor. So he's not really he's more of I don't know if this is even a term, but he's more of a defensive comedian where he doesn't actually have any offense. On his own, he's not funny. He needs people to say shit and do shit for him to bounce off of, for him to be funny. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's sometimes though I watch some of his stuff and I'm like, oh, that's me. I'm that asshole that does this. Although, I mean, Couples Retreat, I still love the line. Do you remember that movie?
No, I don't even know if I've ever seen that one.
The one with him, Vince Vaughn.
Sam, my wife just watched that last week actually on using your video account, but no, I've never seen it.
Oh, they're trying. He's trying to get Vince Vaughn and a bunch of his other friends to go on this vacation, and he tries to come back to the house at night, but he's like tossing pebbles at the window, and you keep hearing him tink, and then like Vince Vaughn comes down with his gun, and he like almost shoots him, and he has the best line. He said, "You could have been anybody. You could have been a rapist." He said, "Rapists do not gently toss pebbles at your window."
What the fuck?
Anyway, I'll move on here. We got another one on the list. It was on your underrated movie list, which I did agree with. 19 years old, almost being able to smoke and drink, from 2003, Willard.
Yeah, man. But yeah, we did talk about this briefly. This might be one that we end up doing a full episode on, because it's one of those ones that I could just keep talking about this movie. But let's be honest, this was Crispin Glover is at the top of his fucking game in this movie. I mean, he's been known to be kind of weird in real life, and we all know that if you know who he is, everybody's got jokes about him. You know, everybody makes fun of him and jokes around and pokes fun at him because he's like a really eccentric person. But you know what? Like, we don't personally know him, so his personal life doesn't matter. His work and what he does in his movies truly shows. And besides that fucking dance in Friday the 13th.
Damn, I was just about to say.
Part 4.
He had the sweetest dance moves in Friday the 13th.
His work in Willard truly shows you how genius of an actor he really is, you know. And during the commentary, he constantly points out every time he cries in the movie, he would say, "Those are real tears." You know, he's very proud of his work, and rightfully so. Willard is a character that everyone understands and feels for. He just takes shit too far, and you know that's actually usually the case with these types of films. If he didn't take it too far, there really wouldn't be a movie, would there?
I mean, that's a lot of horror movies, right? It's somebody that you can feel sympathetic for, but they just take it a bit too far.
Agreed. And I actually think this remake is superior to the original film, the 1971 film. I think it's superior because it's just so much darker, so much more depressing.
And not number one, but our other one here on Horror History.
Last but not least, right?
From 35 years ago, 1987. Maybe one of the worst movies ever made, Evil Dead 2.
Joking, obviously you're joking. No,
I was gonna see if I could get a reaction out of you.
The funny thing about this movie is that this is the movie that actually made the term groovy cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like basically a remake of the first one.
It's like the whole thing is like, you know, they couldn't.
It's very confusing watching the original and this one back to back.
Well, the whole thing was like it's a.
I don't think you hit this.
it's a remake in a sense, but it's not, and that's where the contradiction lies, because everybody's like always conflicted, and it's actually kind of both. The truth is they couldn't afford the footage from the original film to do a recap for Evil Dead 2. So instead of like doing a recap, they just refilmed everything, just using Ash's girlfriend and cut out the rest of the cast. So it comes off as a remake, but it's actually a remake sequel. This was kind of the first requel. Actually, this was actually kind of the first requel, you know. But I mean, I think we might need to do an Evil Dead retrospective episode, because there's just too much to say. Well, we just do 1, 2, Army of Darkness, and even the show. We'll just break them all fucking down and do a long, extensive episode and torture our fucking editor, Josh Hensley.
Yeah, and I finally was able to get through Ash vs. Evil Dead. I'd seen the first 2 seasons, but just never got around to the third, and then I actually had Nicole rewatch it with me. And it's funny because, you know, she's not...
The third season or the whole show?
The whole show.
Okay.
I just because it had been a couple of years, so I knew what happened, but I was like, just let me refresh myself. Actually, when I was out visiting Kenny, him and I watched season 1 together. Then when I came back, I started season 1 and watched it another time again with Nicole, and we watched the whole series. And you know how she is. She's not really into the blood and guts horror, but like she loved Ash versus Evil Dead. I fell asleep one night, and rather than stop the show, she just soldiered on through and kept watching and used the excuse of, "Oh, I thought you had already seen these ones." Yeah, like 3 years ago, I wanted to rewatch them.
It's like I'm going to use a really tasteless like way of wording here, but it is, you know, fuck it. This is a 21+ show. I'm going to bring up cocaine. I'm going to use cocaine as a metaphor here. Like horror in general, is like cocaine, and everybody needs to cut cocaine with something, right? And so like I feel like Bruce Campbell's humor and the just wittiness is what cuts that horror cocaine up and makes it like digestible for people who can't stand gore and stuff like that.
And what I've said is Bruce Campbell's one-liners, I said it to Kenny, I said it to Nicole, his one-liners on their own, you hear them, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to groan and go, that's ridiculous. But for some reason, when it's delivered by Bruce Campbell, it cracks me up every time.
The timing and the way he says it.
But they're so stupid. Anybody else delivering that, it's just, you would roll your eyes. But when Bruce Campbell does it, it just fucking works.
I agree, man. And, I have so many memories with Evil Dead 2. This movie was pretty much watched on loop, like, through all of high school. Evil Dead 2 is one of those movies that's just eye-opening, as even Ryan Spindell said in our previous episode for the Mortuary Collection. This is one of those movies that, like, once you watch it, it literally makes you want to watch more horror. You kind of said, here's another drug reference. You kind of chase that dragon with this one. You're chasing the dragon. You keep watching horror, hoping to find that lightning in the bottle that was Evil Dead 2. And, like I said, I have extensive books on the series. We need to do an episode. We need to just do a whole Evil Dead retrospective.
Yeah, and I didn't get into Evil Dead until, I don't know, was it maybe about 15 years ago? And I remember, like, even back in high school, you were like, you gotta watch Evil Dead. So, like, you've been on me for it for, like, years to watch it. But it was definitely... I still like Army of Darkness best, just because it's just so ridiculous.
I have the best memories with Army of Darkness. I started smoking heavy during, high school, and that was when I started, really smoking weed. And I remember and I didn't tell my parents, nobody knew. Obviously, my sister didn't know. My sister was my best friend at the time, and I would just go say that I was out with friends, and I would just get fucking cooked in the backyard. And I would come in, and I would just act like my allergies were acting up. I think my parents always thought I had allergies, because I always would say that was the reason my eyes were bloodshot, my nose was running and shit. But anyway, I'd come in, and I would just watch Army of Darkness with my sister, and there were times where we would literally, the VHS would stop and rewind automatically, and we would look at each other like, what do you want to do? And we just and press play again and watch it twice in one night.
I can't remember the movies, but I don't know if it was the movies or the VCR or what, but I definitely had shit where that would happen, where it would just stop and start rewinding. I'm like, no.
Yeah, man, it's just I would say I like Evil Dead 2 the most, but I would say I have the most fun watching Army of Darkness, because it's just fucking just I don't think there's a scene in it that isn't hilarious. I mean, yo, she bitch, let's go. I mean, the one-liners, everything about it, it's hilarious.
I feel like Ash Campbell is the most sympathetic.
Ash Campbell. Ash Williams.
I don't know why I got Campbell. Where the fuck did I get Campbell from?
Bruce Campbell?
But
you're high as hell, brother.
No, I got it from somewhere. I don't know where the fuck I got it from. There's an Ash Campbell fucking somewhere that I fucking know. I don't know where, but I'll go figure it out.
Was that person that wrote in for PPA and asked if you were submissive?
The name was Ash Campbell. Fucked me up. Fuck, now I don't even know what the fuck I was trying to fucking say. Oh, I was gonna say Ash has to maybe be the most sympathetic, racist, misogynistic character in cinema history.
And women love him. That's what's crazy, is that, like, he's open about being just masculine and just sexist and male chauvinistic, and the women they'll eat peanuts out of his ass crack. It's crazy.
Ugh, who the fuck's eating peanuts out of a penis?
I don't know about all that. Now you're really getting into that. You're getting into that. You're getting into that fucking legal porno shit. You ever seen legal porno? It's some hardcore anal fucking videos.
What? No, I have not.
Yeah, it is legal. It is legal. It's just it's not the age of people. It's just the boundaries in which the blundering just reminded me.
Eating penis out of ass cracks.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's just that.
Even on a similar note, even eating peanuts out of ass cracks.
There's no reason to do neither. Please don't do neither.
Or if you want to, just make sure the other person consents.
Fair enough.
I think now it's time to get on the Puff Puff Ass, the segment of our show where you write in questions via social media at highonhorror420 and email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
All right, today's questions are pulled from our Instagram inbox. These attracted us.
Send them somewhere else other than Instagram. Goddamn.
I don't know, man. Instagram's popping. But these attracted us because they're kind of funny. Shane, who goes by... Sorry, hold on. Let's give John a second to die real quick.
Oh, man, I'm dying.
Okay, so Shane, who goes by Masked Man 00 on Instagram, asks, would you buy a doll that you knew was haunted? No. I'd be fascinated, and I'd look at it from afar, but I would not get close to it or touch it or own it. But I'd probably take a picture of it, maybe like over my shoulder or something. How do you feel, John? Would you own a doll if it was haunted?
See, before I get directly... See, I feel like they could tell me and, like, have some ways to try to prove that it was haunted, and I still wouldn't believe them. But let's just say I did know it was haunted. Yeah, I mean...
Well, okay, hold on. Let's say you didn't believe it was haunted, but then shit happened that made you think it was haunted. You saw the bitch move or slide across the table on its own.
I would think it was all in my head.
Okay.
I'd be like, I need to go smoke a bowl, chill out.
But pass the bowl to this bitch.
Yeah, just sitting there. I gotta pass it to the ghost.
Then when the doll hits the bowl, you know this shit's real. This thing's haunted. Anyway, sorry.
Anyway, but let's just say I did believe it was haunted. I'd still probably get it.
You would?
Yeah.
Would you put it like in a box or anything?
See,
or would you just
I think they're like
just chill with it on your bed? It's like one of your bed pillows, like one of your bed dollies.
Yeah, just in between Nicole and I in the bed.
A 12-year-old child died with this in her arms, but
now Nicole would be pissed if I bought it and I told her that it was haunted because she believes in that shit. But see, the other thing is like when I think if there actually are ghosts, I don't think that they can like influence shit like well, I guess they're kind of more demons, but still kind of like the whole ghost thing. I don't think they're very influential in being able to actually do stuff.
Yeah.
Other than appear if ghosts were to exist. So that might also play into my whole, if it's haunted, I'll just be like, look at what this shit does.
Well,
it might still be creepy, but...
See, I guess that maybe that's why you and I don't take it to such levels, because we take it to different levels. I don't think you grew up. I know your family, your mom's religious. I don't know. I don't know if how deep into it you ever
shit
got.
Happen at my house that everybody else has said that they've experienced, but I still don't believe in it. Like, I swear to God, like I would hear my front door, like I would sit in the living room at night and I'd hear the door open.
Ugh.
Cause like I would go, oh shit, like somebody's breaking in or something. And it was weird because we'd always have our door locked.
Yeah.
And then I would hear like somebody walk like a creaking like on this wood. Because my dad was handicapped, so we had like a ramp, like a wooden ramp,
right,
going out the door, and I would hear the wood on the ramp creaking. And I mentioned it to my mom. Like my mom, she believes the house is haunted, but she's like unaffected by it after all these years. She's like, oh yeah, I just hear them every once in a while. I don't know. I still don't buy it. I still think it's just something I can't explain, but...
Well, I mean, like, but you personally, not your mom, and like I said, I know your mom's religious, but did you grow up with a background in religion? Like, did you believe or read the Bible at all during your life?
Yeah, my mom, I was like...
But you're Catholic, right?
No.
Christian?
Well, I mean, I think Catholics are Christian, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess it depends, but...
Because
I was born again.
Not
Protestant.
Catholic. My parents took me to, like, Baptist church.
My point is, different Bibles, different strokes, different folks, but...
I mean, I used to believe that stuff, and then I feel like in my mid-20s, late 30s, I kind of... Or
just
late
gave
30s,
up on
early
it.
30s, kind of... It was like a slow drift.
Well, the thing is, though, is like, I'm not religious either. I used to be, and I grew up in a very religious household, as I've mentioned on this podcast before. I would consider myself a nihilist right now, if anything. But the truth is that, if I were to, the reason that I wouldn't fuck with a haunted doll is because I only believe that there are demons, and I only believe that it's demons that fuck with you, because in the Bible, in the King James Bible, it states that the dead know nothing of the living. If that is stated, then that means that, like, when you die and you're in heaven or hell, you have no idea what's going on. So the whole, like, so I hope so-and-so's looking down on me and I know so-and-so's watching me, that's really just a thing to say for hope. Even in the Bible, that's not true. Like, when you're dead, you're just gone. Therefore, when you have something walking around your house saying it's your mother, saying it's your grandfather, saying it's your dead child, that is a demon. That's the devil whispering in your ear, temptation, bringing you to the other side, making you believe in him. You start believing, oh my God, that's my son, that's my son. You're putting your faith into a false thing. You're putting your faith into the devil. So that's why I wouldn't fuck with haunted dolls. I don't believe there are ghosts. I believe there are just demons that fucking try to get in your head and confuse you.
Yeah, I used to believe in ghosts too, but it seems like when my whole religious type stuff went, that kind of went with it.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you can ask any of my friends growing up. My family, my mom was very religious, my father was not, and then my father, like the end of 1999, like became very religious. We would go Wednesday night, Sunday morning, and Sunday night. So like we're going 3 times a week. My knowledge is kind of waned, but that was I hadn't heard that one before, and like my Bible knowledge, like I used to be like pretty good with like Bible knowledge whenever there'd be like the trivia type stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's kind of also because I guess I don't hear it anymore. It's kind of waned.
But you see how like your thing was like if it was demons you wouldn't fuck with it, but ghosts you didn't believe in. So if you take the ghost element out of it,
I don't know if I believe. Well, yeah, I guess.
Well,
yeah,
when I quotations,
believed.
with false quotations, believed. You know what I mean? Like, and so take the ghost element out of it. If you're getting a doll and it's haunted by a demon, like some Annabelle shit, would you fuck with that still?
I mean, okay, so we have to suppose that I automatically believe that like it is actually a demon. In that case, then no, I'm not fucking with it.
Okay.
But if it was just like a ghost and how I think a ghost, I mean, everybody's got their own interpretation of what they can do, but with my interpretation, they're kind of harmless.
Yeah.
If they, I feel like if they existed, it's just something that they show up, but I still don't believe that. But.
Gotcha.
But if I had to,
yeah,
I wouldn't be afraid of my version of Ghost. I
mean,
guess.
there was that you remember that psychic, real quick before we get on, we're rambling, but I have to say this. Do you remember on Montel, the talk show
Montel Williams?
Yes, that's psychic, Sylvia Brown. She ended up being a fraud. So my mom bought one of her books, and like it actually scared the shit out of my mom, and it still creeps me out even thinking about it. This is one of those Bloody Mary type things, where it's like, again, it's all cool on paper, but I would never do it or fuck with it. Sylvia Brown talked about how, and again, she ended up being a fraud, so I don't know what's true, what isn't. It could all be bullshit. But she,
what's the internet called now? Creepypasta.
She said, Sylvia Brown said in this book that she wrote that the dead just are always constantly trying to talk to you, and she said that like if you leave a tape recorder recording at night while you're sleeping, like you'll hear the dead like talking to you in your sleep. And I always was like, I wonder who's brave enough to try that, because I'm not fucking doing it.
I would. Maybe we'll do it and report. The only problem is you just going to hear me just sawing logs.
Yeah, you're not going to hear anybody talking. It'd be like,
so, I mean...
I think there's a conversation going on, but like there's a chainsaw revving over it. Like, that's not a chainsaw.
They're going to have to fucking scream in my ear to wake me up.
Wake the fuck up.
All right, so moving on from ghosts. I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
Bustin' makes me feel good.
That's a fucked up line. Anyway, Paul from Instagram, he wanted to know how long you guys would survive in a horror movie. All right, let me break this down for you. I am slow. I am overweight. My lung capacity, not good. My stamina, not good. I'm gonna be one of the first people out. Like, I don't know if I've ever.
You're
said
pretty
this.
smart though. You're intelligent. You don't think you could put your brain to use?
I mean, maybe, but like when I was watching Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Tim and Jocelyn, our friends, I said, because they were like, pretend like you're dead. I'm like, yeah, until my heavy breathing ass is like trying to sit there and pretend, and he just hears.
You see that ragged breathing, that Michael Myers breathing.
And he's just like, wait, he ain't dead.
This motherfucker taking a nap. You probably would be too.
I keep my eyes closed too long and fall asleep. I just start snoring. That's how he knows.
See, I don't know. I think that you underestimate yourself. I mean, I'm pretty much all the things that you said you are. But I think honestly, it depends on the horror movie, right? Like going back to the first question, if it was a doll that I'm fighting off, then I'm going to survive that goddamn thing. I'm going to survive the whole fucking thing.
That's fair. There's context.
You know? Yeah, I'll fuck a doll up. If it's,
I'm pitching like Zombieland.
That's what I was going to say. Well, if it's zombies, I have a good chance of lasting long as those motherfuckers aren't running. If they're walking, I'm 6'1".
Like 28 days.
I can
later
walk
the
fast.
zombie non-zombies.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, the infected.
Or Zombieland, they're fast in Zombieland
Yeah,
even
like
too.
I'd be fucked.
Yeah, fast zombies, I'm fucked there. But normal Romero zombies, I'm good there. Werewolves or vampires or slashers, I'm fucked. I could outrun Leatherface. I could probably outrun Leatherface. Maybe I could survive him.
No, he probably still got me.
But
if me and him lining up in a 40, I think Leatherface got me.
well, ghosts and demons, I take my chances because with them, all you got to really do is just wear trinkets and spurt verbiage, real passionately, But I'd probably still die from trauma or a heart attack, but I'd last a little longer.
Yeah, like I said, because I'd have to run to hide, and then when I hide, I'm just gonna be like trying to catch my breath. Gonna be sound like BJ Penn after the second round, just fucking huffing.
Dude, I'm just trying to think like when I just said like the slashers, like again, ghosts and demons. If the little woman from Poltergeist can take on fucking Poltergeist, you know what I mean? Then I can stand up to some entities. I'll take that shit on or a doll.
That's a positive message in there.
But you put like slashers. Like I'm just saying, you put me against like Jason Voorhees. I know Jason Voorhees is after me in my condition with my fucked up left knee. I'm honestly like everybody in those movies are all like shaking up and like crying and oh god, what are we gonna do? I would just be like, you know what, bro? It is what it is. I'd plop down. I'd text my wife, love you. I'd sit down. I'd spark up a cone and I would just smoke and wait for him to come and get me. I'd be like, I'm not even gonna waste my breath, bro. You're just gonna pop out from behind a tree. I'm gonna be too tired to fight you anyway. Just let me smoke this joint real quick.
You cut me off earlier. This was what I was gonna get to before you said I would have a chance, but I was going to say, I don't know if I've said it to you. Like, I said, look, man, these, like, slasher movies, I just be like, come on, man. Like, I ain't even going to... I'm not, like, the worst person. I ain't even going to try. I'm going to be like, just get it over with. Like,
it's almost like a pity fuck, but it's like a non-kill. Like, you get killed. You don't get killed, but it's out of pity. Like, it's almost worse that you don't get killed.
Like, bro, like, we know you're going to catch me in the end. Just, like, get it over with. Like...
Just like do some like hardcore gangster shit. Like Jason Voorhees has got you jacked up by the neck and he's about to kill you. And as you're dying, you exhale your weed in his face.
Yeah, I'll get chucked by. I'll get Leatherface. He'll just chuck me 10 feet over into the trash.
And you'll fire a shotgun at him a minute later.
Yeah, rewatching that though, I gotta say, you're right. I said 10 feet and then I changed it because I went, that's too far. You're right. I undersold it on the second one. Rewatching, I specifically was like, I got to see how far. It's 10 feet.
Dude, look, Leatherface was a great
He legit was in the middle of the street.
Leatherface was a great Khali, and Sally was Rey Mysterio.
Oh, no. The Giant and Rey Mysterio from WCW when he tosses them like the lawn dart.
Oh, down the hallway or whatever that was?
Into the, like, trailers. They were outside.
Okay, yeah.
He just picks them up and one-handed and just tosses them like a lawn dart.
More wrestling. I love talking wrestling.
Yeah, so...
All right, well, I mean...
anything outside of dolls and supernatural, I'm dying.
And slow zombies. We could survive slow zombies.
Maybe.
If Sean and Ed can hide up in the Winchester, we'd be in here recording podcasts. We'd be like conspiracy theorists, but we'd just be like, John tried to feed one a piece of pizza today. But it didn't like the pepperoni. Like we'd be like doing weird shit. Like, what has High on Horror become? Like, there's no weed because the world's in a zombie apocalypse.
We'll just start growing it in here.
But if
right here in the closet.
But if it was slow zombies and we could just find a place to shack up, like we just shack up at a movie theater. Imagine that, just watching Night of the Comet, that shit. Just watch movies all night.
I'm in. Hopefully it happens soon.
Anyway, don't forget to write in your questions to us on all social media platforms. The tag is at HighOnHorror420, or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com, or visit our website, highonhorror.com. Now, as John said last week, it may be March, but we're talking about May. Let's talk about May.
And today's film we're talking about is May. It's a 2002, I guess you'd label it a psychological horror film.
That's what I would call it, yeah.
Written and directed by today's guest, Lucky McKee. And that was actually his directing debut. And we have Angela Bettis in the role of May. She was traumatized as a kid. I guess you could say she's traumatized as an adult too, but very much a loner, very on the outskirts of social society, really.
Yeah, I mean, this is the story of just about loneliness and about a woman, May, who just finds somebody that she really likes and just basically becomes obsessed with them to the point that it's unhealthy, and she starts basically she is so socially awkward that she can't separate reality from fiction, and she starts trying to, you know, just she takes things to a whole other level. I mean, Angela Bettis is perfection. She's adorable, she's very attractive, and she plays a nerdy, quirky type very well, doesn't she?
Yes, and the story, we get a look at her childhood. She has a severe lazy eye. The kids actually ask her if she's a pirate because she wears a patch to school. And her mother had a glass encased doll named Susie, and she gives it to May for her birthday and tells her kind of the theme of the movie: if you can't find a friend, make one.
That's nice.
And she works as a vet assistant, and first she gets her lazy eye fixed, first with glasses and then contact lenses. And then she meets Adam, and that gets very interesting. She has a fixation on his hands, and she considers that to be his most attractive part of him. I don't know about you, but I don't know. I've never gone, damn, look at her hands.
It's a girl thing, I think. My Sam always says that about me. She'll be like, I love your hands. And I'm like, I don't know why they're calloused, they're beat up. I don't get it. I don't know what it is with hands.
Yeah, then they start dating, and that goes weird, doesn't it?
I mean, it does. It does. But, the thing about May is that, the character of May embodies so many horror fans. And that's why I think that this movie is just so well received amongst everyone who's seen it. Because, May is just awkward. And
everybody can relate to May a little bit.
Right, exactly. And she feels like a freak, and she's socially out of touch and super nice and leaves herself wide open for heartache. And we all have experienced loneliness and the want to be normal or made to feel normal by our peers. And May is the embodiment of that. And that's why she's sympathetic. Yes, she takes things too far, obviously, as we'll get into, but you see where she goes off track. And honestly, until she mentally derails, even in her awkwardness, the viewer understands her, even though she's making the wrong calls. You can't help but understand where she's coming from, even though she's fumbling. But, like when Adam, played by Jeremy Sisto, and he's napping, and May comes up and just puts her face in his hands, or starts smoking his type of cigarettes. She just wants to fit in. How can you not feel for that?
Yeah, I think our friend Lauren Marie Taylor has been bested for the worst person knowing how to smoke something.
Oh, agreed. We're gonna have to tell her that. Yeah, we're gonna have to tell Lauren that. That's a very good point.
May struggles very completely no idea how to smoke a cigarette. I mean, the first time I smoked a cigarette, we all didn't know what we were doing, but
we weren't.
It wasn't that difficult to figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah.
May has some real problems, and then she also has a lesbian colleague, Polly, played by Anna Faris, and she flirts very heavy with May. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of double entendres in Anna Faris's talks with her. And May talks about her having a beautiful neck. And when May goes to Adam's apartment, he shows her the film he made, Jack and Jill, about a cannibalistic couple. And being weird, our protagonist, May, gets aroused by the cannibal film and says it's beautiful.
Yeah. And that's kind of where, she starts to lose things a little bit. She sees that film, and then, it's just, she sees that film and basically tries that on him. She thinks, oh, he likes this. So, when they're making out, she thinks like, oh, let me bite his lip and bust him open and split his lip open, and gets really rough with him. And let's be honest here, Jeremy Sisto, he's not desperate for any female companions. So, he's not scared, and he does drop May like a bad habit once he sees through her.
Well,
he sees through her bullshit.
In fairness, now, the first time she does it, I believe he says, "What's wrong with you?" And then
he goes back at it, yeah.
They go on another date. So already knowing the guy was like, what the fuck, when you did it the first time, I believe she bites it even worse the second time.
That's when he gets split open. And he's like, that's when he's really like, what the fuck? And he gets pissed, yeah.
Yeah, and like, I know you're supposed to feel bad, but dating some, I don't know how to politically correctly say this, some interested women. I can understand some of how Adam feels about, like, because she goes to his house and can hear him talking and saying, I'm so glad I got away from her.
Yeah, yep.
And she says, I'll go for Polly, do the whole lesbian thing. And look, Polly offered her mac and cheese.
Yeah.
I'm not turning down mac and cheese. I told Nicole, some woman offers me mac and cheese, I'm going to her house.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there, you know, but also though, it's the little things that May does that kind of start to get to be a little too much, like when she's going to the laundromat, trying to time to be at the laundromat when he's there. And, you know, like the things like when he's going from work and she's like deliberately like walking across from him and bumps into him and acts like she didn't know he was there. And the little things that she does, the little cute things kind of just start to becoming more and more like, this is like, you're creepy, you know? And then the whole thing, like you said, happens where, you know, she, you know, bites his lip and everything. And yeah, Adam, he rejects her after she becomes too freaky for him. You know, her affection becomes violent because she thinks that that's what he wants. And, he's a huge horror fan.
I kind of told her the first time, no, that's not what I want you to do. And she took that as, yeah, do it again.
I know, you know, but, you know, it's like he's a huge horror fan and watches things of, you know, violent and grotesque nature. And
I can't fault Adam for how he felt, like, to get away from her. Like, he's not really a bad guy in all this.
No, he's not. And, yeah, so he drops her like a bad habit. And then from this point,
straight up lies to her at the laundromat.
Yeah, he does.
Because they always keep running into each other at the laundromat. And then he goes to use the machine and goes, oh, this doesn't work. I got to go take it down here.
Yep.
And then she goes over and puts money in and the machine starts right up.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, but it's uncomfortably, even though she seems harmless, she's uncomfortably overbearing. And even for him. And, he's the type of dude, you know, just doesn't take any shit from women. And for him to just be like, I'm just going to go elsewhere.
He had a new girlfriend pretty quick.
But I'm saying, instead of just telling her, like, fuck off, you know, you crazy bitch. Like, that's what he could have said. And instead, you know, he's just like, you know, I'm going to go, you know, this machine isn't working. I'm going to move on. Like, he doesn't want to be around her. He doesn't want to be around her. Like, there's nothing there. There's no talks left to be had. He's done with her. And, yeah, you know, and you know, and so that's at the point where May loses her shit, and you know, she decides that, you know, her doll, you know, just isn't enough. She needs to make a new friend, and her doll Susie's not enough, so she makes a new friend, and she just starts, you know, basically becoming Frankenstein's doctor, and just strings together a string of victims rather quickly.
Yeah, it started with she had Adam's cat.
Yeah.
And then she was, or actually, no, I'm sorry, it was Polly's cat.
Yeah, oh, Polly, yeah, Polly's cat.
Because she was devastated with everything that happened with Adam, so she goes to Polly's house, and Polly has another girl. And again, with this tense movie, Anna Faris just has lunch. She's like, I'll kick her out. Like, she was like, you're my number one. Like, yeah. I'll kick her out. So then May's devastated, and she throws the ashtray she got from one of the blind kids at the, I guess it was an orphanage?
The orphanage, yeah.
Somewhere she was working. Can't remember off the top of my head. But that was the most unforgivable kill, was killing the cat with the ashtray.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. But yeah, once
she fucking launched that ashtray.
But I still think that you know, once May snaps, she's totally gone, and I still think that Polly's death, Anna Faris,
and she kept thinking Susie was talking to her too, which was weird.
I still think that Anna Faris's death is the hardest to watch because she doesn't know it's coming, and it's done in like
we all know it's coming,
right? But it's done in the way the scene is shot. It's done in this like elegant, innocent, you know, kind of joking manner, almost sexy, you know, and like, you know, and then
the whole time Polly's like, I know you wouldn't hurt,
and then May just cuts her throat, and it's like it's so elegant, but like it's also very crude.
Yeah, and she also, you know, like I said, believes the doll's taken her. And she took the doll, Susie doll, to the blind kids. And they kept trying to take it out of the case. There's like a whole struggle, and then it just shatters. The blind kids obviously can't see the glass, so they're like crawling through the glass and like falling on it. She's in the glass. And then, then after that's when she went over to Polly's. And the whole time Polly's like, "Oh, I know you won't hurt me, May."
Yeah, and because she's. I mean, would you think May was gonna hurt you? I think that's the whole thing. I don't think
would.
anybody. You would?
Yeah.
You would not see.
Like I said, I've dealt with some of them types. Maybe not that far, obviously. I mean, I don't think I've known any that have committed murder.
I mean, granted, I wouldn't be like. I wouldn't let anybody. I don't care how skinny or frail or like inferior I feel that they are to me. I'm not gonna let anyone sit behind me with a fucking blade to my throat of any sort. But in
Maybe
regards
Gianna
to
Michaels.
in regards to just like straight up being afraid of May, no, I wouldn't be scared of her. But I wouldn't put myself in these situations where like she could like take advantage of me either.
And also, when she's at Polly's house, it's on Halloween night, and she's dressed up as Susie.
A big Susie doll. She's dressed as her only friend Susie. You gotta love it. It's so cute.
And then we got some random punk dude.
Yeah.
That she meets.
Yep.
He tries to be nice to her on the bench.
Dude, that's Frank the Bunny from Donnie Darko.
Oh shit!
Yep.
Yeah, and he's also in Independence Day
and Tales of Halloween. Yep. He's made his way around. He's kind of a genre. Actor right now.
Yeah, then she likes his tattoo. So
his Frankenstein tattoo.
Yeah, May, like Drew said, ends up Dr. Frankenstein in it, and she makes her own friend. But she forgot to give it eyeballs so it could see.
Yeah. Yep.
That was probably the roughest scene to watch.
Well, it's kind of like you really see how fucking far gone gone she is, because she's screaming at this, like, I'm gonna call it an amalgamation of just like body parts, like Jeremy Sisto's hands, and
it's everything throughout the movie of different people. She told him she liked this about him.
Yeah, and it's like and she's like, she realizes that it can't see her. And she's screaming like, it can't see me, it can't see me, it can't see me. And then she just kind of goes and does what you see her do in the very opening scene of the film. Which is
it's funny
removing her eye with a pair of scissors.
I forgot about that, and then we got to the end, and Nicole was like, "Oh, we're back where we started."
Yeah.
Because you just see her screaming. But, yeah, she gets rid of her only, the thing that's plagued her whole life, that lazy eye, and put it on the doll. But I wonder, then would the doll then like have eye problems seeing? I mean, you gave it one eye and it's a lazy eye.
Yeah, right. You give him one eye. That's a very good point. But that's a very good point. But I like just how it's done. It's just done in such a way where like nothing's perfect. Like she gets the eye on there, and then she just kind of lays down next to it. Yes, the eye just rolls off the face next to her, and she's just dying. May dies at the end of the film, and as she's dying, like we just said, the eye kind of rolls off the face of this man-made doll, which is hilarious, or woman-made doll, I should say. And then in her dying moment, like the hand, the arm.
The movie ends in her perspective because you see the hand moving.
Yeah, it's not obviously really happening, but the hand, the arms lift up, or the right arm comes over and kind of gives her like a gentle pat on the head, and she's like, you see the littlest smile, like, her only friend acknowledged her, and that's how she dies. It's really sad, but it's very, very dark at the same time. Yeah,
Drew was a little more sympathetic.
I feel for May. I would have taken May on a date.
I take the Adam route. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, I told her I didn't like it. She did it anyway, and then she kills me.
Nah, man, she just needed somebody to understand her situation. That's the thing. He was a hit it and quit it, and she was a stage 5 clinger. That was they were just not meant to be. If May, look, I'm gonna champion for May here. If she had somebody who could, if she had somebody who knew her situation, could obviously scout, hey, she's obviously socially awkward, has never been on a date before. She had somebody to be if she had a gentleman, I'm going to blame Adam. That motherfucker is not a gentleman.
No, I'm not blaming Adam.
If she had somebody who was sympathetic towards her and knew how to edge her in to just like a relationship and just kind of like, no, don't do that, do this. And kind of like, I feel like she had a chance, but she just jumped into a dude that really just didn't give a shit about women. He just ran through women like truckers run through cigarettes. He just didn't care.
He was being fine with her until she bit his lip, and then he goes, "What the fuck is that?" That's the only thing he did wrong. I mean, I don't even, well, he didn't even do that wrong. Like, I mean, how else do you want my dude to react when his lip gets bit?
But here's a question. I wish that we had Lucky here right now. I would ask him. I wonder if Adam had gotten laid. Do you think he would have dropped her, or do you think he would have stuck around and had a girlfriend? Because I still see it being the same way. I feel like he would have gotten in her pants, and then like he would have avoided her.
Nah, I think he would have stayed.
Really?
I mean, what else did he do wrong to her before that?
I mean, he just moved on awful quick, man. My boy.
I mean, the dude warned her, and I mean, he didn't directly address it, but when you go, what the fuck? I think somebody knows they did something wrong.
But
I mean, she even reacted like she knew she was wrong, but then the next week does it even more. Like, no, that's on her.
I mean, I look. I do see your point. I do see.
Well, I don't know if it was next week, but their next date.
I do understand where you're coming from, but I do still think that Adam could have been a little bit more helpful. I mean, when she bit his lip that first time, like there should have been a talk. There should have been a hey, I don't understand. I don't like, hey, I don't like that. Like, I like watching movies of people getting cut up and stuff, but I don't cut people up. I don't like, I don't like that happening to me. And there was no talk. There was just like, what the fuck? Obviously she was off, and I just felt like nobody acknowledged that. Nobody acknowledged her mental just instability.
But I think he just thinks she's naive, but like, I mean, when you respond with what the fuck, I don't think that's a reaction of like, yeah, more of that.
I mean, I get you, but
did he deserve to die over it though?
I mean,
okay, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, he did not deserve to die over it either.
He
His
dumped her
offenses,
badly. You don't.
Yeah, no, he didn't deserve to die for that. Yeah, that's the ball again. May took it too far, but she just had one too many things happen to her. But I do understand May. I feel that May could have been. How I mentioned that she's the embodiment of most horror fans. I feel that May could have been any. And I'm not trying to call anybody out there psychos or myself or you, John, but I feel that May could have really been any horror fan, just on a bad day. Like that could be anybody on a bad day, like just taking things to an extreme and not meaning to, and just things unraveling. I understand how it happened. I feel bad for her.
I mean, you don't have to. She took it too far now.
Yeah, she did. That's where it's unexcusable. I can excuse it up to a point, but once you killed my girl Anna Faris, it was just like, come on, man, like. No.
What was your favorite kill?
I'd have to say that that's a pretty good question, actually. But I guess it's gonna be Adams because of the way that like she uses like a knife on him, the way she kind of like fake uses the knife on him, his prop knife. She uses on him kind of earlier in the movie, and then like he actually dies from getting stabbed in the neck, and that's like again, Polly's death, Anna Faris' death was kind of elegant. Jeremy's sister's Adams, he just got stabbed in the throat. I don't feel like it was elegant at all. What about you?
Was there a
the cat? You said the cat was that?
No, I said that was fuck. She was fucked up for that.
Okay.
The punk rocker guy. Like,
yeah.
Did he have a name?
I don't. As if it's mentioned, it's not said.
But he got the scissors to the top of the head, right? Was that him that got the scissors?
Yeah.
Dude, that was rough.
That was rough. That was a good one though. That was a good one.
Dude, he gets killed right after. I forgot about this. How he gets killed. He goes to like he's more of a dick than Adam was. He just met this girl 20 minutes ago. He's in her apartment just like helping himself to the fucking freezer. Like, you go to the freezer, so that means you cooking a meal. You're not like getting a drink.
Yeah, that's so he's more of an asshole than Adam because he helped himself to a refrigerator.
When he goes to open her freezer and May starts freaking out, it was like, don't open it. The fucking cat is frozen in the freezer. And another one, we get like, what the fuck?
I mean, that's like the best like dead cat scenario since her finding the dead cat and Reanimator.
I was gonna say that
when they find him in the fridge.
Why can't I think of the movie Boondock Saints?
Oh, when Rocco shoots the cat. Oh my god. What color was it, bitch? Anyway, so yeah, I've been a fan of this movie since it came out. I've turned everybody, like a bunch of friends, onto it, and nobody's ever rejected me. Most of them have even bought it. My wife loves it. I love it. It's got total rewatchability. 9 out of 10.
I'd probably go like 7.8.
Okay.
But I mean, it's definitely good. Well, one of the better movies of the early 2000s. I kind of feel like after the late 90s into the early 2000s was just a dip in horror, but I feel like this one's definitely one you need to check out from the early 2000s. All right, now I think it's time to get on to Burn and Learn, the segment of our show where Drew and I fill you in on behind-the-scene facts about the movie we're talking about, and in this case, May.
Oh.
Burn and learn.
This one's pretty interesting. Leslie Keel, the DP, made May's doll Susie by hand in just 72 hours.
Damn, like, over the course of 3 days that thing was made, that was pretty detailed, too.
Make me one. I want one in my collection.
Wow. Man, that thing was pretty big, though.
Yeah, right?
I guess it wouldn't be as big as your Chucky one.
No.
Mike McKee, Lucky McKee's father, plays Dr. Wolf in the film.
Okay, so if you're familiar with this film, you know the infamous veterinary scene with the dude talking about his dog. The three-legged dog story in this movie is true. The guy who comes into the vet's office and says, you know, that he leaves his house and his dog has all of its legs, and then he comes back home and it only has 3 legs and he can't find the 4th leg. Lucky McKee's sister worked at a vet clinic and actually told him this story, and he thought it was just so fucking crazy that he put it in the movie.
Damn, that is pretty crazy, though. As the glass of Susie's breaks, Mary's sanity breaks. The glass represents May's sanity.
May's creation is comprised of Adam's hands, Blank's torso. Blank is the fucking punk. That was his name, Blank.
Oh, yeah.
Blank's
yeah.
torso and arms, and Polly's neck, Ambrosia's legs, and presumably Loopy the cat, and the cloth on the head with her former doll Susie's eyes, until May decides to sacrifice one of her own eyes at the end, as we discussed.
Every victim in the movie other than Adam is killed in the neck or higher. Lupe the cat is killed by an ashtray thrown at the back of its head. Blank is killed with a pair of scissors to the forehead. Polly is killed with her neck, like we said, having her throat slit from 2 scalpels. Ambrosia is killed with 2 scalpels to the side of the forehead. And May kills herself by the stab wound to her eye. However, Adam's attacked the same way May stabs him with the retractable knife earlier in the film, in the stomach. And also, another small fact, Polly at the beginning of the film stabs the eye of her half-carved pumpkin.
That's right, she stabs him in the stomach, and I said she stabs him in the neck. That was my mistake. It is absolutely in the stomach.
Does that change your favorite kill?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Blank, and now that I can remember his name, yeah, Blank, for sure. His scissors to the head works. Anyway, and as we discussed, May's Halloween costume is a replica of her doll Susie, so again, that's pretty cool. All right, well, now let's talk to the director himself, Lucky McKee, and see what else he can fill us in on about this movie. Our guest today is the director of the film that we're talking about today, May. He also directed The Woods, The Woman, and All Cheerleaders Die. Welcome, Lucky McKee. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So what's going on, man? What can you tell us about your upcoming film, Old Man?
Yeah, Old Man is a film I made kind of at the height of the pandemic. We shot it February of last year. It stars Stephen Lang and Mark Center. And it's about this old man who lives in a cabin up in the Smoky Mountains, and a stranger shows up at his door. And the movie is basically kind of a chamber piece, basically, where these 2 guys are trying to figure out who each other are, and it just kind of gets more and more surreal and kind of trippy as it goes along. But I'm really happy with it. It should be coming out in the fall.
Okay, great. Is it going to get a theatrical run, or is it going to be a straight to video? Or a video on demand, I mean.
Yeah, I think it'll play. It'll play a handful of cities and theaters, and and then it'll do the video on demand and streaming and all of that kind of stuff. So
okay, excellent.
But yeah, it's in a good position. I'm really happy. We've got It was a really special experience making that movie. Stephen Lang, I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's done a ton of great stuff over the years, and this movie is a tremendous showcase for the skill set that guy has as an actor. The whole movie hinges on his performance. He's doing most of the talking in the movie, so it's real long runs of dialogue for him to remember, and the whole thing takes place in real time, which I had never done. I got to shoot the movie. Another thing I don't get to do very often is I got to shoot the movie in chronological order.
Nice.
Usually you shoot things in all sorts of pieces all over the place, but because of the nature of this thing, it was based on a stage play. And we did what we could in developing the script and trying to turn it into something that was much more cinematic, expressive in a cinematic way. But still, the most of the story pretty much takes place in a linear fashion. So to be able to shoot a movie, to be able to start a shoot at the beginning of a movie and then work your way to the end was a real luxury.
That sounds awesome. We can't wait to see it. Yeah, Stephen Lang. That says enough right there, and then put your name above the title. That's also, that adds to it. I got to ask you though, real quick. You're on High on Horror, so we ask all of our guests this. Are you a smoker?
I've been known to smoke.
Is smoking your preferred method, or do you like edibles more?
Yeah, I like to smoke weed. It's all fun, but obviously, with work and family and all the stuff that I'm into, not a lot of time for it, but yeah.
And obviously you have a lot of horror on your resume. What attracted you to the horror genre?
I think you can be really creative on a low budget. It's not really a star-based genre. I mean, obviously it helps if you have a star in your movie, but you can make something where the genre itself sells the film. I thought that was really attractive, and I've always kind of leaned towards dark stories. I'm a real big fan of fairy tales and folklore and that kind of stuff. And I think that there's a real connection between horror and that stuff, campfire tales, basically. Those stories we tell each other at night to spook each other, or to, for mothers, I think that, fairy tales and those kind of things were used as cautionary tales for their little kids. If you act like, imagine if you had a wicked stepmother, you should be thankful that you have a nice mother, and I love the logic of fairy tales, which I think lends itself to horror really well too. I mean, May is very much a film that was made with a fairy tale sort of logic, where it's like, I don't have a friend, so I'll make a friend out of these pieces of people. It's very kind of like a psychological expression of an emotional thing,
Yeah, and what films really brought you into the genre as a fan?
The first thing that I remember really scaring me when I was a kid was The Wizard of Oz. Was the Wicked Witch and the Wizard of Oz when I was really little. Was really freaked me out, and her little monkeys, especially, like her little flying monkeys. Those things still kind of freak me out. But I think that it really kind of took its hold. Gosh, how old was I? Probably about 8 or 9 years old. For my sister's birthday all those years ago, we didn't have a VCR, but for our birthdays, we were able to rent a VCR and a couple movies to go with it. And for my sister's birthday one year, our cousin convinced her to rent a bunch of horror movies. So that in one night, we watched Psycho 3, Carrie, and The Hitcher.
Oh, nice.
And that night of just, I was with my cousins who are all these very tall, everybody's really tall on that side of the family. So these very tall girls, I was like the one boy in the situation with my sister and a couple of my cousins. And we just sat there and just got freaked out in the dark. I lived in a house in the middle of nowhere in the country. So that made it extra freaky. And it was just one of those things where you're afraid to walk down the hall to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. And we just had a blast getting scared. And I just kind of got hooked on it from there on out, and I've been hooked ever since, almost my entire life,
Yeah, it usually starts early. The bug usually gets planted early. And so that's the case with you as well.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and my son, I mean, we obviously we don't show him a bunch of crazy like horror movies or anything like that. And we're not really, my wife and I aren't really, we don't have like a bunch of horror stuff around our house or anything like that. But he just, for some reason, he's just really into that stuff, man. Like he's just so excited to go to Spirit Halloween, and like one of his first favorite movies was Nightmare Before Christmas, and he kind of has that same bug, but at an even earlier age than I did. He's always drawing these really strange pictures, and so yeah, and maybe it's in the blood. I don't know.
That's hilarious because I swear to God, my son is 4 years old, my son Abel, and he is the same way. I shield him from it, but it's like he still, whatever he sees enough of to just love it. And it's like he does the same thing. Like, he'll literally just be like, I want to be Jason, and I'm like, you know nothing about Jason. Why do you want to play Jason? And he does the same thing. Like,
yeah, my son does the same thing.
Pretend.
I had to tell my son that my son saw Jason's big machete, and he was like, "What's that?" And I kind of stopped for a second. I'm like, "Okay, what do I say here?" And I was like, "It's a giant butter knife. he butters people's toast." So he's walking around thinking that Jason is buttering people's toast with his giant butter knife.
Oh, well, that's
the best I could do on the spur of the moment.
The TV edit version.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, anyway, back to your to you. Most directors nowadays start their career with like a plethora of short films before they do feature length projects, and your career isn't like that. You've done a few shorts here and there, but you kind of went head first into like full movies. If you look at your IMDb list, it's like you jumped right into feature length movies. Why do you think that is?
I guess, I was lucky to get to make my first feature at a pretty young age, but, I started, making movies when I was like, 12 years old, we were shooting stuff. So I did make a lot of short films, just nobody saw them.
Okay.
And I made a lot of short films growing up. I when I got the bug to make movies, when I was kind of in elementary school, I thought I was really into comic books because I lived in a really rural area, so I never really got to go to the movies or see a lot of movies. So comic books, you could go to the little mom and pop grocery store and get comic books. So that was kind of what got me interested in visual narrative. And I said, okay, I'll write and draw comic books, but I kind of discovered that no matter how hard I tried, I didn't really have a real gift for drawing. And I tried really, really hard, but then I would see another kid that would just kind of effortlessly draw something, and I was like, okay, I don't have that gift. And around that time, I was realizing that, was admitting that to myself. I met a kid that had an old video camera, and we shot a little Freddy movie one weekend, and then immediately after that, I was like, I got a summer job at a horse ranch, and I shoveled shit and fed horses for 3 months and bought my first video camera. And just started shooting. I've been shooting shorts ever since then. And then I went to film school at USC, and we were immediately starting to make things with our video cameras and stuff. And we had Super 8 classes, and so there, I did have a training ground. I just happened to luck out that that a script that I wrote when I was in college was remembered by somebody that I went to college with, who was starting a production company a few years later, and I think I started working on May, knowing it was going to be something that was going to get made when I was about like 23 or 24 years old, so I was really lucky in that regard. But even since then, I made a music video, a few months ago, that I put out, and I love making shorts, and I think that it's a great ground for experimenting. And I would suggest that anybody that's starting out in filmmaking to definitely, shoot, a good amount of short films before you try tackling a feature. A, because it's better to fuck up on something where the stakes aren't as high. And B, you make a short film, you get that sense of accomplishment a lot quicker and a lot easier, if I make a 5-minute short and I do everything I can to make that as good as I possibly can, it doesn't take you a year to do that. Hopefully it doesn't take you a year. Maybe you're animating it, maybe it does, but But just get out there and shoot stuff and cut stuff and experiment and try stuff and find your voice by making those films. I think most filmmakers, and including me, when you start out, you're copying your favorite stuff. The first thing I made was my own Freddy movie, and then I tried to do like a Star Wars thing with like my Star Wars toys and shit like that, and was really fascinated by special effects and all that kind of stuff. So, so yeah, I mean, there's a million ways to get into it, but for me, if you want to be a director, you gotta just be making films, and now, people, you can literally shoot and cut and do sound design on your phone.
Yeah, right.
It's crazy. I don't know how to do any of that shit on my phone, but I'm old, so.
Yeah, I don't know how to do any of that shit either, and I've never tried to direct a movie before, so I mean, if I did try it, I would not. I mean, I guess it would be easy to try it on your phone because it's like free, but I would just feel like a first movie on my phone, it's just gonna be fucking terrible. I don't even know if it's
but most first films are terrible, but it's better to do it with a short film and let that be terrible and then learn from that and then take it into the next one and hopefully do something a little bit better and build your confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Build your confidence so when you step onto a set, the worst thing would be to step on a set on your first day and have no fucking clue what you're doing. You got to have an idea of where to put the camera. You have to have an idea. It's well and good to sit by yourself in a room and think about how to make a movie and have all these these ideas about what you're going to do and how you're going to do it and stuff. But until you get in a room with other people that you're trying to communicate your ideas to, and you're trying to spark them so they bring good ideas to the table, I think that's one of the big things I don't hear talked about enough is the virtues of collaboration. And if you're a director, you don't have to show up on a set and have all the answers to everything. You're like a spark plug, to an engine. You come in with an idea and you listen to those people around you, and you're a filter that all that stuff goes through, and hopefully you make the right decisions and you make something cool, but the collaborative aspect of filmmaking is really like one of the greatest things about it. I don't think enough people talk about it.
It makes sense. I think, a lot of movies would benefit from having a group head as opposed to just one head, like it makes total sense.
Yeah.
So May came out like 20 years ago. I mean, it widely circulated about 19 years ago, but like that's crazy. And like, how does that make you feel? And I got to ask, how does it make you feel? And where does May rank on like your favorite films made list?
May's really, really special to me because it was my first one. My first one by myself. I had previously, kind of learned how to make a feature by making like a backyard zombie movie with my friend Chris Severson that we co-wrote, co-directed, co-edited, co-shot. When I was holding the boom, he was holding the camera, and we literally just split the duties down the middle. And he edited half the scenes, I edited half the scenes. We polished it together. We did all the sound design. We learned how to do that, and then shortly after that, I got the opportunity to make May by myself. If I hadn't made that backyard zombie movie, I would have been even more behind, I think. But I had really good people around me. I had Steve Yedlin shooting it. Steve's gone on to shoot stuff like Looper and Knives Out and The Last Jedi and stuff like that. And Ryan Johnson, who directed all those films, was my editor. So I had really, really smart, great people around me, and my production designer, Leslie Keel, was incredible. And, even our second unit DP is shooting gigantic movies now, but this was our little group of friends that had formed up to that point, largely people that I had met in film school, and we were like a little band. This May was the first movie that our group, that was ours, that we got to make. That was one of ours. It wasn't us crewing on somebody else's movie or contributing to some, it was like for our band, that was the first one that got made. And it was really special for all of us for that reason, and shortly after that, Chris Severson got to make his first feature, and Ryan made Brick, and Yedlin started shooting more and more things, and it all kind of grew from there. So, as far as where it stands, I mean, there's no comparison for where May stands in the filmography, because it was our first shot, it was our foot in the door, and we didn't entirely fuck it up. We still had careers after that, I can't. Yeah, I don't know. In terms of like, are you trying to get at like kind of overall my movies, or just where does May stand and with the rest of my movies?
Yeah, overall.
Overall, yeah. Well, I guess that about explains it, you know. But and then after that, I got to make a studio film called The Woods for MGM, and that was a big learning curve because I was going from this little $400,000 movie May to like an $8 million studio movie, and then all of a sudden I was like 27 years old at that time. You know, that was a big deal. That was like I'd skipped all these grades in school to do this big studio movie. And there was hard knocks along that way, but I still ended up making a movie I was pretty happy with, you know. But they're all special for their own reasons. I mean, even the worst piece of shit I ever made, this movie called Blood Money with John Cusack, I still learned a lot of stuff by having that experience. You know, I learned a lot that made me, you know, dig my heels in deeper on the stuff that could protect the movie from getting train wrecked like that one did, you know. And I had a movie called Red that was like that too, that kind of blew up in my face. But then I made The Woman on the heels of that, you know. So all of those, every single filmmaking experience, you always end up meeting a few cool people, you know, and sometimes a lot of cool people. And you take those ones with you and you leave behind the shitheads, you know, and you just keep trying to refine, like, okay, what makes me happiest when I'm doing this, you know. The other consideration obviously is like keeping the lights on in your house, you know. And you have to ask yourself the question of how much bullshit can I take, and how much bullshit will I put up with in order to, you know, do this thing that I love to do. And it's you know, it's a case by case basis, you know. Some things you're doing more to, you know, to keep your lights on, and other stuff you're doing more just because, you know, it's just burning in your guts and you got to do it, you know. It's a weird thing when your job is tied up in something that you love so much, you know, and then that can get preyed upon, especially when you're young. You can get preyed upon by people that know how much it means to you, and they really take advantage of you, and it's how people get exploited, you know. So one of my big goals as I've been making more and more movies is to always help, you know, help the people in my circle or the people that I meet along the way, like especially if they're getting into making their first movies. I try to, you know, give them advice or guidance that keeps them from stepping in those same potholes I did at a young age, you know?
Yeah. You had mentioned that Ryan Johnson was one of the editors on the film, and you were an actor in his short film, Evil Demon Goofball from Hell. Was there something that you noticed?
Evil Demon Golf Ball. Evil Demon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Golf Ball.
Yes, Golf Ball. Was there anything working with him that you saw that, you know, he would go on to have the success that he's had?
The first short film I saw, I met Ryan my first day of my freshman year at USC. And over the course of the next week or two, as everybody was getting to know each other, and still a lot of the people that were just on that dorm floor are still really tight, you know. Chris Sievertson, Steve Yedlin, Ryan Johnson, our friend Todd Tomadavia is a DP. John Luckett, she ended up doing the score for May and a bunch of my other stuff. All these people were just kids that were put on the same dorm floor their first year at USC. Early on at that time, Ryan showed me some movies he'd shot on VHS, and then he showed me some Super 8 films that he had made the previous year. And you just knew immediately this guy's gonna be running everything at some point. He just has it, you know. It was very intimidating, you know. But in our group of friends, I think everybody kind of always felt that Ryan and Steve, they were kind of a duo, his DP, that they were kind of the top of the mountain in terms of just like, wow, these guys are so gifted, you know. Yeah, you just knew right away, you know. And from, you know, by the time I got my foot in the door with something like May, I was trying to help bang on every door I could to help Ryan get his first movie made, because I knew he was going to be a fucking sensation in anything he did, you know. The guy, he's a genius, you know. And a really good person, like a really nice, good person that hasn't been changed by all of his success, you know. But yeah, you could tell immediately you know, that he had something that, you know, that not a lot of people have, you know, an ability with the medium that was effortless in a way that, like I said, was intimidating, and also just kind of like you're just like in awe of it. We all learned a lot from him, and we helped him we all played musical chairs on each other's films when we were coming up. You know what I mean? Like I would act in his thing, and then he would come over and help me cut something, and it was always like this, and it's still like that with all of our friends. We still give each other notes and encouragement on anything that we're working on, and we're really lucky that we have like our little core group of friends. I think most people can relate to their group, like their tribe.
Definitely.
So.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Well, you had said that the story of May was heavily inspired by Taxi Driver, and once you said that in the commentary, that clicked immediately. When you said that, I thought, oh shit! But like but you never said, and so I have to ask you, what were your other influences? Was it just Taxi Driver, or like what else was there?
No. The other big influence was Nirvana. Nirvana's my favorite band. They hit me when I was about 15 years old. It just totally changed the way I looked at everything. I came from the sticks, man. I was fucking, not a lot of money and just living on 5 acres in the middle of nothing, and about, went to a very rural high school and all that comes with that. And I saw these guys go up on Saturday Night Live, and they weren't polished. There was a rawness about them, and it was imperfect, but it was like so like emotional what they were doing, and that just lit a fire in my head about everything. So the doll imagery, I think, comes from there's a lot of doll imagery and that kind of stuff in Kurt Cobain's art and his lyrics and everything. And I think that kind of found its way in there that way. I was also really enamored with this painter, John Williams Waterhouse, who's a pre-Raphaelite oil painter. I'm trying to think of something. Lady of Shalott would be one of his most famous paintings, or Shalott. God, Shalott. I don't know which way is the right way to say that, but
me either.
But yeah, the pre-Raphaelite oil painters, these guys that just wrote, you'd recognize, you could look them up when you get a chance. I was really enamored with those kind of paintings, so that was an influence on the production design and the lighting and everything. There's an early Roman Polanski film called Repulsion with Catherine Deneuve. That's I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a fucking trip, man. And just the way that her environment decays around her as she's going mad, that kind of, I think that maybe was an inspiration for the doll case cracking and all that kind of stuff. And, and then obviously the other big one is fucking Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. That book, I read that at a very young age, and was so amazed by the book because I'd seen, different movie iterations of it, but the book showed me the monster's perspective, and right. There was these several chapters where you're in the monster's point of view and what he's going through. And I just thought there was something really powerful about that. He wasn't just a monster, that there was, that there's real human qualities there, and real longing to be accepted and all that kind of stuff, And she wrote that when, I wrote my first incarnation of May when I was around that, in those kind of angsty teenage years, so that's the other thing. The primary influence on the whole thing is just me, what I was going through in my life, right? Having trouble making friends or talking to girls or all that stuff was kind of wrapped up in that story,
Absolutely. And that's the thing, I'm one of the people that I feel bad for May. I do. I feel for her. Even though she's a creep, I feel for her. So, like, would you say that your goal in writing May was to kind of, like, make the audience sympathize with a creep from, like, their perspective?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, yes, she does end up murdering a bunch of people and killing her cat. Killing her cat seems to upset people more than anything, which is kind of funny because she kills, like, 5 people. But the cat, that's where it crossed the line for them.
I draw the line there.
I know, I love my cat, but yeah, I mean, it's all like I said, a visual expression of a psychological idea, right? Like, how often have you met somebody that there's this just awesome like rush of excitement, and they're so cool and stuff. But then the more you hang out, you start to see kind of qualities about them. And I'm just talking about like personality traits where you're just like, fuck, man, that guy, like that person is an asshole to waiters. You know what I mean? Or something like that. You just wish that you could kind of cut away those little aspects that you don't like. So, May was like, okay, kind of jumping off the Frankenstein thing. It was like, do that in a physical way. That's where it gets into like the fairy tale logic. Like in the original Cinderella, when the stepsisters can't get their feet into the shoes, my foot doesn't fit in the shoe, I'll cut my heel off, or I'll cut my toes off, and then it'll fit. That kind of logic is just kind of freaky, So.
Yeah, absolutely. It works perfect, though. And I don't think you could have found a more perfect actress than Angela Bettis. I mean, she was incredible.
Yeah, she's amazing. And I think the reason that we're still talking about the movie 20 years later is largely because of her, and largely because the theme of the film is loneliness and feeling outcast and awkward. And I mean, how many horror fans are out there that like feel that way or have felt that way growing up, at least? There's a lot of people I think that can identify with just feeling like other and feeling like I don't say the right thing at the party, or I'm the kid that sat on the bleachers at the dance and I wasn't in the middle of the dance floor, and all the pain and that goes on with that. I tried to put all of that stuff that I had gone through into that vessel, which was Angela, and she understood it on like a molecular level, what I was trying to do, and she was just so good at, listening to what I said and then putting it through her filter and then expressing that and as an actor. She's incredible,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that the entire success of the movie hinges on her, and she just nailed it, she broke our heart.
Right, and Angela actually came back for The Woman. How did she get involved in that?
At that time in my life, I was asking Angela to be in anything I did. I knew she couldn't play the woman because the character had been established. So when Ketchum and I were writing the book, I wrote this family, and it just Angela was the first person I asked, and then Angela was friends with Sean Bridgers, who ended up playing the dad, and that's kind of how things start to work when you get deeper into your career. It's not, that movie was, I think, the only person the casting director actually found was the young son, Zach Rand, and it was a great find. I mean, that was worth having a casting director just for that. But the rest was just, my producer had worked with Lauren Ashley Carter on a previous film, and I met her and liked her and thought she was a good match if Angela was going to play her mom. And like I said, Angela was from, I'd made a few things with her at that point, and she was friends with Sean Bridgers, and Polly was coming from the previous movie. So that whole cast kind of fell together, and the teacher character was an ex-girlfriend of mine. It all kind of came together that way. But yeah, I mean, after May, I was asking Angela to be in everything, obviously, because we had such a great experience. It's unfortunate we haven't been able to work with each other in a while.
Well, The Woman, while we're on The Woman, I just wanted to say that compared to your other films, and I know, you as you had mentioned, you wrote the book with Jack Ketchum, and, his stuff's always really dark and serious. And I wanted to know, like, when you made The Woman, when you directed it, like, comparing it to May, which is pretty grim in itself, and then, like, All Cheerleaders Die and things like that, The Woman is such more of a darker and, like, hardcore film. So did you take that as a director? Did you say, hey, here's a chance for me to do some sick shit that I don't normally or can't normally do, and I get to do it?
Kinda, yeah. I mean, I was really angry. I was really angry at that time in my life. I had the last film I had tried to make was an adaptation of Jack Ketchum's Red, and I got about halfway through shooting that movie and had a falling out with the powers that be, and the movie got shut down halfway through, and then it didn't make sense for me to come back into that situation because it seemed like it was going to be more of the same. So another director took over the film and shot the rest of it and finished it, which was really, really hard on me. That was a really heartbreaking experience. I mean, I felt like I was never going to make movies again. So when the opportunity to do The Woman came up, I I was coming from kind of an angry, mean place, you know. And I think that just came out in the movie, you know. I wanted to make something with real bite, you know, and I'd felt like I'd been pegged as a horror director, and I didn't. I think depending on the advertising, you could have made, you know, May isn't, you know, not that it's bad to be a horror movie, but I think that there's cross pollination from other genres in there as well. You know, the taxi drivers and the romantic, even there's romantic comedy elements in it and all this kind of stuff. I try to kind of put that mixture of things I like into something. So, the woman was kind of like, okay, you want a fucking horror movie? Do something that makes you really fucking uncomfortable. Cause at that time I felt like American horror was kind of soft at that point in my eyes. And I felt like, not that it's a competitive thing, but the way I put it back then, it was like, we're getting our ass kicked by these guys over in France that are making like fucking high tension and Inside and Martyrs and just these really, really fucking hardcore movies, man, that like really, really were deeply upsetting, but like also like really expressive and really had something to say. So I think that was kind of me kind of trying to like, you know, throw my hat into the ring on that kind of a thing, you know, at that point. And plus I was working with Jack Ketchum, you know what I mean? I'm not going to tell, you know, that he's about as hardcore as it gets if you've ever read his book. Really hardcore. So there was an element of, you know, since Red was supposed to be my Jack Ketchum movie, this is going to be my Jack Ketchum movie. So it was almost like in my mind, I was kind of doing like a greatest hits of all the themes and the type of stuff that Jack Ketchum does that I love so much. So it was almost like a compilation album or something like that, or like a tribute album, you know, to the type of the stuff he does, you know. The torture elements of The Girl Next Door, the cannibal elements of Off Season and Offspring, the real discomfort that I feel in just a scene of two people sitting in a car in a novella he wrote called The Passenger, you know, kind of tried to get all those, was really trying to get all those flavors in there, you know, and that's the way the movie came out. It might, you know, I'm kind of thinking that might be the meanest movie I ever make. I think, hopefully.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It's mean, you know, and I can understand why it's not for everybody, you know, but that was also the first movie that I had the chance to make. And I'd been making movies for about 8 or 9 years, professionally making movies for about 8 or 9 years at that point. And it was the first one where I felt like I accomplished exactly what I set out to do. It looked like I wanted it to look. It had the music, you know, and there's people that don't like the music I used in it, and I get it. You know what I mean? If you don't like that kind of music, you don't like that kind of music. And it's very abrasive on purpose, you know, like the volume goes from pin drop quiet to really fucking loud. It's that Nirvana dynamic that I've always played with in my movies, you know? But yeah, I mean, that was the first one. And I had total creative freedom. I had Final Cut on paper, you know, no one could take my cut away from me. I could do exactly what I wanted. So warts and all, that was the first one that I got to where I had just all the space I needed, you know. The only obstacle was just the budget, you know. How do you do all this stuff for the very tiny budget that we have? But we pulled it off, I think, you know.
Oh yeah, you definitely did. And it's funny because my wife, when I first met my wife, she wasn't a big horror fan, and she wasn't that big on horror. And she's very, very smart, very nerdy, you know, like seriously, she could be a rocket scientist. I have no idea why she fucks around with me. But you know, she's super smart. And she when I met her, she had written this paper that she was like getting like rave reviews on in school, and she had written a paper about a feral child. And I was like, oh, you know, I was like, well, you know, like I'm trying to goad her into watching a horror movie with me. And finally, like, I was like, I think I got the hook. And I was like, you got to check this movie out called The Woman. And she watched it and she absolutely loved it. And I'm like, my God, this girl who like, yeah, like this girl who like doesn't like horror wouldn't watch A Nightmare on Elm Street with me, even though she says it's cheesy. Like, and I throw her right into a hardcore film. And she watched it like 3 times without me. She like borrowed it. And I'm like, and then I got her into May and like, it's like she actually became a fan based on. I found the hook, and it's like, so it goes to show you that even though the woman's hardcore, if the stories.
Wait, did you marry her before? Did you marry her before or after this happened?
After.
Good man. See?
Yep, exactly.
That's all the proof you needed, you know.
Exactly, but the point is, I think that
oh, that makes me feel good.
yeah, well, it's just, I think the point is that despite a movie being extreme, if the story's strong enough, people are going to be willing to sit past the extreme shit. And I think The Woman was a very strong story, and it was very well acted.
Yeah, and I had a lot of women and well, just people, not just women, but largely women come up and tell me that this movie was kind of, because the movie is very much about abuse. It's about domestic abuse in a couple different forms. And I think that there was a lot of people out there that kind of had maybe not been in as extreme situations like that. Obviously it's a movie, so it's pretty fantastic. But it really resonated with them in terms of being honest about, what it's like to live under somebody's thumb in a house like that, to have that domineering parent, that abuses their position as a parent, so that's rewarding when people get something out of it. It's not just throwing blood and guts at the camera just to get a visceral reaction. It's actually getting under people's skin in a cool way,
right?
Which is the goal.
Well, exactly. Okay, so back to May real quick. You had a lot of Argento mentioned in the film. You specifically mentioned trauma and opera. So, I want to know, just because I know you're a horror fan, why those two movies? Because those are later Argento films. Did you find that those just made more sense for May, or are those two that you're particularly fond of?
The trauma thing, I don't know. I think it was just trying to pick one that was a little bit more off the beaten path with Argento, just to show that this guy is really into Argento. He doesn't just know Suspiria. He doesn't just know Tenebrae. He knows fucking trauma. You know what I mean? And he's excited to watch it. A lot of people aren't. A lot of people feel like it got to opera and then it all kind of went downhill from there. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm that guy. I learned something from every film he makes, even the ones that didn't quite work for me. Just because I love his sensibility and I love his eye and I love his experimental nature, the opera thing, I think the opera thing, you're talking about the artwork in his apartment or his house or whatever, I guess. That kind of came from, we were looking at this book I had of the movies of Dario Argento or something. I can't remember the name of the book. Art of Darkness, I think is the name of the book. This really cool book that we just completely, the pages were falling out of it because we were looking at different things in it for references, and my production designer just really liked that image of the girl with the needles taped under her eyes, and that she commissioned this artist she knew that worked with found objects, and he kind of created this thing around that. And I mean, a lot of the gack that's around that opera picture is just to kind of Greek it so we didn't have to pay for the rights to use that imagery from that film, But yeah, I obviously adore Dario Argento. It's not exactly the way, I think a lot of people think that I discovered Argento and then started doing what I do, but I discovered Argento kind of late in film school as I had kind of found my voice and kind of figured out how I wanted to approach things, the kind of stories I wanted to tell. I went into college thinking I wanted to make stuff like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, and I came out the other end wanting to make stuff like Taxi Driver and Sweetie and The Piano, But late in that game, I saw Stendhal Syndrome was the first one I saw, and it tripped me out because he'd made this movie where he was using fine art and classical art and using that as a launch point for creating a lot of his visuals. And even Stendhal Syndrome is really cool because it's about the power of that art and how that art can overpower you in an emotional and psychological way, which I just identified because I'd been experimenting with ideas very similar to that in the Super 8 films I was shooting at the time, trying to recreate paintings that made me feel a certain way by writing a story and then having, using that image to kind of launch into, to give myself a certain feeling. And then when I saw Suspiria, I was like, oh my God, this is like watching, great paintings and sculptures move, like the artistry on display in his films was just so exciting to me. And the abrasiveness, the abrasiveness of his horror and the brutality of his horror. And then that getting into Argento opened up Italian horror of the 70s to me. And there's just fucking treasure upon treasure if you really go digging through that stuff,
For sure.
Oh man, the best stuff. I got I just got a 4K player. I got a region-free 4K player, and one of the first 4Ks I bought was Lucio Fulci's New York Ripper, which is a dirty movie. It's just like the sleaziest shit you could ever watch. But I was just thinking, like, this is amazing that I'm watching. Like, I basically own a print of this movie now, and it looks better than it probably did when it came out. And back in the day when I was younger, they had these mail order catalogs where you could buy bootleg VHSs. Where this guy would like tape Japanese laser discs onto VHS, and that was so all those movies I saw the first time with Japanese subtitles on them. But just to think, going from those muddy bootlegs where I discovered those films to like, oh my God, I have a fucking print of the New York Ripper. This is amazing. I just love what they were doing over there at that time, with very little money, but so creative, like Lucio Fulci is a fucking master as far as I'm concerned,
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's no disagreement from us.
Okay.
I had an old tweet here from you from July of 2015, and you said that May wouldn't exist if it weren't for Amanda Plummer's character in The Fisher King. One of my favorite films, crushes me every time.
Me too.
What exactly?
Oh, wait, I said that. I thought you were saying it crushes you every time. Yeah.
What exactly from the character of Lydia inspired the character of May? Was it just like her social conventions, or was there more than just that she took?
Awkward, yeah, that awkwardness and that just Amanda Plummer, like she's just so alive. Whenever a camera's on her, she's doing so. I got to work with her on that movie Red later on, and we just really hit it off. She's operating on another plane, man. You'd be talking to her before the cameras are rolling. You're like, what the fuck is she talking about? She's really out there, And then you get her on set and you put the camera on her, and she's just fucking spectacular, Yeah, it was that kind of depth of performance. Somebody that was that committed and that, had all the quirks and all the, all that stuff, and that really sweet interplay between her and Robin Williams in there, two kind of outcast people finding each other, the beauty in that, which is what May is kind of searching for in my story, but she never really, she never really finds that other person, she has to make it,
And kind of somewhat of a follow-up, I was going to ask if the mother character was based on Joan Crawford at all, because she definitely gives off like Mommy Dearest vibes.
I wasn't really familiar with a lot of that stuff at that point when I wrote that character, but if you do get those feelings, there may be something to that. The actress also may have been kind of keying on that sort of a thing, because I think that anybody that sees an overbearing mother in a thing is going to immediately think of Mommy Dearest,
I'm sure Joan Crawford's happy that's her legacy.
Yeah, it wasn't consciously in my mind at that time. So.
And what do you think was the final tipping point for May? Was it the kids smashing a doll, or was it just really just like the weight of everything?
Yeah, I mean, I actually had a situation with a longtime friend yesterday so this is real fresh, but it was some little thing that came up, and it kind of made me kind of re-examine my relationship with this person. And just, wait a second, like, why am I, I don't know. It was like a breaking point for me with that person. I felt like I feel myself trying really hard to maintain a friendship, and I don't feel that coming the other way. And it just kind of, something clicked over in my head, and I was like, you know what? Like, I need to not think about that anymore and just kind of concentrate on the people in my life that there is an interchange with, that there is an exchange with. And, I think we all go through that. And I think for May, it's the situation with the where is it that she really, really snaps? I don't know where that breaking point is. It's a cumulative thing, really. It's not, like I said, like for me personally, what was going on yesterday, it was a little thing that a friend of a friend said that other person said, and it just it was just like that one extra thing that was like, you know what, fuck this. I think we can all relate to that. Whenever we snap or we really, most people are pretty good at keeping themselves in control in their lives for the most part. But sometimes, man, just like one little thing will just fucking send you out the deep end, but it's usually because it's on top of a larger thing, So for her, obviously it starts with her mother and it goes all the way up to that point where she decides to start killing people,
Yeah, and the character of Polly, Anna Faris does a great job. Was she somebody you had in mind coming off Scary Movie?
No, not at all. We auditioned. Fuck, it seems like hundreds of women, young women. At that time, we saw a ton of people, and we managed to get a meeting with Anna, and she was just a firecracker, man. Like she's just like one of the most like naturally funny people I've ever met in my life, and just like it just has this like energy coming out of her. You feel that when you meet certain people. They just have a thing. They have it. And her whole thing, she obviously wasn't going to get paid very much to make the money. She was like, I just think I really want to play a lesbian. Okay, that's great. That was her whole motivation for doing it, because it was something different than she'd been doing these kind of airplane-esque scary movie things, those real kind of broad comedies. She saw it as a challenge and she took it on. She did a fucking killer job. She brought so much humor to it,
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, all the humor comes from her, and she does a great job with it.
Oh man, she's fantastic, and she's like that in real life too. She's just such a warm, hilarious person. She just got kind of a goofy outlook on things. It just fucking cracks me up, man.
And I gotta ask, May kind of, as you brought up, Frankenstein kind of creates her own person. Why didn't she get somebody else's eyeballs instead of using her lazy eye?
Oh well, that's her perceived flaw, and by taking that out and separating it from the place where it's not functioning, she puts it in a place where it has function to her, But who knows, man? She's fucking crazy.
Well, that's also fair as well.
Fair enough.
I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, to me, that that's the thing. It's like her eye was offending her, so she took it out and put it to use in a different way.
And you debuted the film first at Sundance. Did you enjoy the experience of Sundance?
Not at all. Not showing the film for the first time. Are you kidding me? I could barely stand up. I was sick in my stomach. It was like so fucking excruciating to share this thing. That was really hard to make, and a lot of grief in the making process. Me learning how to deal with spending other people's money for the first time. And the way movies are made, it was all just kind of a shock to my system. Ultimately made the movie I wanted to make, but not without, taking some licks along the way. But after we showed it, after the first screening, it got better. It was easier to watch it with people. After that, I started really enjoying watching with people. And yeah, that was my first film festival, Sundance is a weird festival though, because it's really fucking cold. You can't breathe because it's so high in the mountains. There's like no fucking oxygen. People are passing out right and left all the time when you're there. It's really hard to get around. The screening facilities left something to be desired, I'd say, at that time. But it was still my first film festival, so yeah, it was really special. It was really special.
And now, initially, when it initially debuted, it didn't do well in theaters, but it's really found a home as a cult classic now. How does it feel to finally have your film getting the recognition it deserves?
It feels great, man. It's awesome that anybody remembers anything that you do, like much less something from 20 years ago, It's like, like I said, I think that's a testament to what Angela did in that movie, how she played it, But yeah, it feels good. It's a little bit frustrating sometimes when I get a feeling from a lot of people, I guess, not online or people that I meet at conventions and stuff, where I feel like I've made much better films since, at least in terms of the craftsmanship, because I was really learning, it was my first movie, so it's got a lot of imperfection about it, and it's got a lot of, rough edges, and it was really low budget, and the technology was different back then. We were shooting on 35 millimeter, and we had very little time to shoot and all that kind of stuff. It's a hard movie to get out from under, is what I'm saying, and it's like, I made that when I was like 26 years old, 27 years old, 26, 25, 26. I made that. So, that was a movie I made when I was very young, so, it's hard to get out from under it. My wife and I joked that I'm going to start a production company called Not May Productions, because I don't want to make that movie again. I want to try different shit. I've been kind of branching out into different genres in the last 10 years, and it's been really fun. And even like this movie Old Man I have coming out. It's the first thing I've made that is just men. Everything I've made has centered on a woman. So that was like an exciting new frontier for me, and I had a lot of fun with it, so I hope people connect with it, but again, it's not a bad thing to have a movie that everybody remembers, so I can't complain too much.
There's worse things you could be remembered for, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
And one last question about May here. New York Times critic Stephen Holden in his review referred to the film as a slasher, and I've even seen Rotten Tomatoes refer to it as a slasher. I mean, it has some of those elements, but I never looked at it as a straight up slasher film. Do you consider the movie a slasher?
No. Again, it's got elements, but it has, you can't deny that there's elements from that stuff in there. She does stab a person in the neck with a fucking scalpel. She stabs a dude in the head with a scalpel, and it has some of those elements in it that were there for kind of like an emotional shock value, but to me, May is a character piece, about a girl, it's just about a lonely person, but like I said, it's a lot of the stuff that was influencing me at that time, from romantic comedies to horror films, to Scorsese films, to, just, everything that I was into at that time, so to just call it a slasher film, I think to just call it that, I take a little bit of issue with, people can classify things whatever way they want, as long as people are watching it. I mean, how many people are lucky enough to get somebody to mention their shit in the New York Times? That's
true.
Cool, so.
Yeah, I feel like,
but that did make me worry at the time that people were like coming in thinking they were going to see this wall to wall horror movie, and it's like all of a sudden we're just sitting there watching a girl cry in her apartment alone. Like, what the fuck is that? Are they there going, what the fuck is this all about? Like my new movie Old Man, it's not a horror movie. It's got darkness in it, and it's got a couple some scary shit that happens in it, but it's not a horror movie. More of like kind of like a psychological head trip sort of a thing, and I was concerned that it would be viewed that way, but I think that people that like the type of stuff I've done will still like it a lot, because it has, a lot of the flavors I like in it.
And besides Old Man, do you have any other projects coming up?
Nothing I can speak too much about. I've spent on either side of Old Man. I spent time. I unearthed a script that was always intended to be my second movie, my movie after May, the movie that I really wanted to make after May. Another really, really personal thing. A friend encouraged me to dig that out right at the beginning of the pandemic. And that first 8 months of the pandemic, I wrote a new draft of that, and it came out 260 pages long, because I had a lot to get out, because I'd been thinking about it for 25 years. And then I went and made Old Man. That took 8 or 9 months, and then up until about a few weeks ago, once I finished Old Man, last August, September, I finished that. I did my second draft of this script, and I finally feel like The reason I didn't make it as my second film was because I had kind of a traumatizing experience making like such a personal movie like May in a Hollywood sort of a situation, that I just kind of freaked out, and I just stuffed it in the drawer, and I didn't want to put that on that chopping block until I could find myself in a situation where the thing could be protected in the right way and I could make it the way I felt like I needed to make it. And, you know, in the 20 years that it's taken to get to the point where I feel like I can make that happen, I've lived a lot of life, you know. I've gotten married, I have a kid now, and it really changed my perspective. So this new version is kind of the best of what had existed previously, but really, you know, I was pulling a lot from me kind of dissecting how I grew up and what kind of environment I grew up in and the kind of fucking weirdos I grew up around and stuff like that. And trying to tell a dramatic story with that. It's not like straight autobiographical by any means, but it's very, very based in where I'm from. And the rural country setting in Northern California. So I'm working on that, and I think I'm like one polish away from starting the, you know, process of actually making that film. So that's really exciting because Sweet. It's like one of those things where it's like, you know, it's one of those movies you have to make before you die sort of thing, you know? And if at any point in my career, someone said, you can make whatever you want, you know, and no one will fuck with you, what do you want to make? This would be it, you know? So I'm trying to like make that become a reality, you know? But it's taken me a lot of time to gather the skills I thought I needed to gather in order to do it, and also have the emotional fortitude to deal with it because it is very personal. And I had worked on it over the years several times. I'd pick it up, I'd rewrite like half of it, and then I would just realize I was getting depressed every day because it was digging up a lot of stuff that was just fucking me up, you know. But I don't know. I guess I've lived enough life to where I've, you know, got to a place where I was okay with confronting a lot of that stuff. So working on that, and then some other things, you know, coming up this year, maybe some television work and stuff like that, but nothing I can really talk in too much detail about.
And where can people follow you on social media to keep up with your upcoming projects? Twitter's largely where I hang. I don't look at, you probably notice I don't answer my Instagram messages very fast. I don't have that connected to my email or anything, and I don't check it every day. So, Twitter's the best place. And I'm on Twitter more than any of those other ones. I don't really use Facebook that much anymore, and Instagram kind of here and there, more just to see what my friends are up to, you know. But Twitter's the place if somebody wants to like ask me a question directly or something. And what is your Twitter handle?
It's just @LuckyMcKee, all lowercase.
And we want to thank you for coming on today. It was great getting to talk to you about a movie we've been fans of for years now.
I gotta admit, I'm a little disappointed. I thought you guys are going to be smoking weed the entire time we were talking.
I think we've only done that once.
Yeah, once.
You're like slipping gummies the whole time. I'm just kidding. No, it was awesome talking to you guys. Thanks for having me.
And hopefully you're able to finish that script and get that movie made. And we'd love to have you on again to talk.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll be doing Old Man's coming out in the fall sometime. So maybe around that time, if you guys want to talk again, we could do that when I'm doing the rounds trying to promote that sucker. Appreciate it.
Hell yeah, man. Sounds good. Hell yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, yeah, thanks for being on our show. We really appreciate it, man.
Right on, guys. Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there for tuning in. And thank you to Lucky McKee again for joining us today. We definitely look forward to the Old Man coming out. And like I said, May is a treasure of the early 2000s horror. And join us next week. We'll have a special review for you on Censored. Drew is a big fan of that, got me to watch it, and I enjoyed it as well. We'll talk about that in the Video Nasties.
Love that movie.
And make sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok at High on Horror 420. And you can always check out our website, highonhorror.com. And you can email us from there at highonhorror420@gmail.com. And you can sign up for our newsletter to get the newest episodes and guest announcements sent directly to your inbox. And I guess we'll see you next week. I don't have anything else. You got anything?
Nope.
All right.
See ya.
Oh, well, you beat me to it this time. Catch you later.